Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. I am super thrilled you're tuning in today because we're going to be tackling something literally every single 3D artist, animator, and rigger wrestles with at some point. We're looking at the ultimate goal here, making your 3D creations truly, undeniably pop on screen. Now, I know we all put a ton of effort into the technical details of our models, but today, we're stripping all of that right back. We're going to focus entirely on the absolute fundamentals of character appeal.
So why is it that some 3D characters just look absolutely amazing, like totally full of life and personality, even before they take a single step or utter a single word? I mean, we've all felt that really familiar frustration, right? You spend days, maybe even weeks, modeling, texturing, tweaking a character, only to step back and realize it just feels kind of boring or confusing or just entirely lifeless. You've done literally everything right technically, so what in the world is missing?
Okay, let's dive into this. It's a pretty fascinating contrast. On one side, you have characters defined by perfect textures and elaborate lighting setups. And on the other, you have characters that you recognize instantly just by their base shape. Because here's the reality of how our brains actually process visuals. Long before your audience ever notices the subtle micro-expressions on your character's face, and honestly, way before they appreciate the 100 hours you spent sculpting poor details that nobody's ever going to see, they process the character's overall shape. The silhouette communicates the story fractions of a second before the details even begin to register.
So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, the secret to appeal. Second, silhouette first rigging explained. Third, our four-step workflow. And finally, why use this approach. We're going to move straight from high-level theory right into a concrete, totally practical guide. Let's jump straight into section 1, the secret to appeal, which is all about visual clarity. I'm going to reveal the foundational secret to making your characters instantly readable.
I want you to step into a little mental sandbox with me for a second. Imagine taking that beautifully crafted 3D character of yours and turning it completely, 100% black. No textures, zero colors, no specular highlights, just a solid shadow against a blank background. Now, what's really cool about doing this is what it actually forces you to confront. By stripping away all your hard work on the surface, you reveal the raw, underlying structure of your pose.
And that brings us to asking yourself three really simple questions. Looking at just that black shadow, can you tell who the character is, what they're doing, and what emotion they're expressing? Because if the action isn't glaringly obvious without all those surface details, your audience is definitely going to struggle to read the pose. Even if your animation is technically flawless, if the base shape is just a confusing blob, the performance totally fails. Great character design, and great animation for that matter, always starts with absolute clarity.
All right, now that we totally understand the problem, let's look at the solution in Section 2, Silhouette First Rigging Explained, focusing on a creative workflow.
So, what is it? Silhouette First Rigging is a creative workflow that prioritizes visual communication and strong poses over standard industry technical complexity. And I really want to emphasize something absolutely crucial here. This is a creative workflow. It's not some rigid, standardized industry mandate you have to follow. It's a mindset. It's an approach designed specifically to help the animator easily separate limbs, open up body shapes, and create those highly expressive profiles. Basically, it prioritizes the art of communication over the math of the rig.
Will this rig help create stronger, clearer poses? Whenever you're building or adjusting a rig, this is literally the only question that matters. We so often fall into the trap of just chasing technical flexibility, right? We want to add 100 micro-controls just to prove that we can. But this question forces a really strategic contrast. Are you adding a control just for the technical bragging rights, or are you adding it to actually facilitate visual communication for the audience? Because every single control should empower the animator to speak more clearly through the character's shape.
Let's move to and see how this builds directly into Section 3, the four-step workflow. This is where we get into the practical steps and where the rubber really meets the road. Here's your rapid-fire preview of the framework. Step 1, design readable poses. Step 2, build the rig around the pose. Step 3, test for multiple angles. And Step 4, animate with shape variety. These 4 steps are exactly how we get from that abstract theory into practical on-screen application. Let's break them down.
All right, step 1 is to design readable poses. So before you even think about adding any complex extra controllers, you need to create 5 or 6 hero poses. And here is the real kicker. You have to view these hero poses entirely as silhouettes. Turn off your lights, turn your materials black, and just look at the shape. This is your foundation right here.
Now, what kind of hero poses are we actually talking about? We're talking about things like a confident stance, a frightened reaction, maybe a powerful jump, or just a quiet, thoughtful moment.
When you're looking at these in silhouette, you've got to be highly critical of your work. If the legs overlap too much and turn into one single thick trunk, you've got to adjust the pose. If the arms disappear into the torso so the character just looks like a cylinder, you must adjust the pose. You just keep tweaking it until the action is undeniably obvious just from the outline alone.
Once you've got a pose that totally works, we move to step 2. Build the rig around the pose. Ask yourself, can the hips shift weight convincingly? You, acting as the rigger, need to ensure the shoulders can rotate naturally to hit that exact silhouette you just designed. You need to ensure the spine bends smoothly to support the emotional performance. You're adding controls because they are absolutely necessary to create stronger silhouettes, not just to artificially inflate how complex the rig is.
Next up is step 3. Test from multiple angles. We're working in 3D, right? Which means a fantastic silhouette from the front might look like an absolute mess from the side. You have to rotate your camera. Check the front, check the side, check a 3/4 angle, maybe even throw in a dramatic low shot. Because if your character becomes visually confusing the second the camera rotates, then either your rig controls or your posing workflow really needs to be refined. A truly strong pose holds up its clarity across multiple viewpoints.
And finally, step 4, animate with shape variety. You see, strong animation doesn't just hold one good shape. It actively alternates between different body shapes. You transition from wide to narrow poses, you use curved lines versus straight lines, you move from open silhouettes to closed, guarded ones. Alternating between these different shapes creates this amazing visual rhythm. It prevents the animation from feeling static and makes the whole performance feel incredibly alive and dynamic.
Okay, so we've covered the what and the how. Let's move to our final section, why use this approach? Let's talk about the ultimate impact.
And this brilliantly illustrates the massive payoff you get for this mindset. Clearer storytelling, more expressive poses, vastly better readability, stronger character appeal, incredibly dynamic animation. Oh, and it naturally creates much better compositions for things like thumbnails and cinematic shots. Why? Because just like we established at the very beginning, a character's shape communicates the action to the viewer's brain way faster than the surface details ever could.
Ultimately, this brings us to a really fundamental shift in mindset. For years, the technical approach has been totally obsessed with the math, asking things like, hey, can I add a control for the middle joint of the pinky toe? We have to contrast that against the right storytelling mindset, asking about audience understanding. The best rigs in the world are not the ones with the most controls. The best rigs are the ones that simply, elegantly help the animator create memorable, instantly readable performances.
So, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. The very next time you sit down to build, rig, or animate a character, before you get lost in the technical weeds, ask yourself this one question. Can my audience understand this character with just a silhouette? Because if the answer is yes, you are well on your way to creating something truly unforgettable. That wraps up our explainer for today. Take this workflow, test your silhouettes, and go make your characters truly come alive.